Who are you? Why are you here? What is the point of anything you're doing? Where does that thing in the dark come from? These words of existential questioning were actually taken from a Steam review of 2024's Animal Well, praising the game for its platforming and puzzle mechanics, but at the same time criticizing the game's lack of story for its lack of meaning. Throughout history, humanity has been driven by an unrelenting quest to find meaning. From ancient myths to the philosophies of Socrates and Nietzsche and even Alan Watts, this search has shaped cultures, inspired revolutions, and defined individual lives. But this timeless journey is not confined to the written word or spoken thought. It finds its way into every form of expression, including video games. As we explore these digital worlds, we confront challenges, build connections, and uncover truths, each experience inviting us to contemplate what it means to live, to struggle, and to overcome. In every story, every game, every choice we make, there exists a subtle, almost invisible thread connecting us to the age-old question, what does it all mean? Questions that lead us to viewing ourselves as the best version of ourselves, or at times luring us onto the path of being the villain in someone else's story. And I love these games. Take, for instance, Night in the Woods, where a young Mae Borowski returns home after dropping out of college, only to discover that the home she left behind, the people she left behind, are not the same as they were before. Her best friend Greg has been working to get his life on track since she's been away, and although he still enjoys getting into trouble with her like they used to in the old days, he's struggling with bipolar disorder and questioning if he's a good person or if he will ruin his relationship with his boyfriend Angus. And her friendship with Bee is strained, with the two of them having drifted apart years ago. Mae doesn't realize how quickly Bee had to grow up after her mother passed away, and now she has to help take care of the family. Meanwhile, Mae is struggling with her own mental health and lacking direction in life and figuring out how to maintain relationships now that she's an adult. Night in the Woods speaks to that looming existential dread that many young adults have as they try to find their way in a world while the world around them is changing. It also highlights those emotional battles that so many of us are quietly struggling with inside as we simply try to go about our day. In Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, you play as Senua, who is plagued by hallucinations and delusions stemming from scars of abuse and isolation from her past, and the guilt related to believing that her darkness is the cause of the death of her beloved Dylan. Her internal emotional pain turns her experience of psychosis into a living hell that she must fight her way through. Playing Hellblade means you become immersed in the mind of Senua, and while many players found being surrounded by these voices disturbing, I and many others found them meaningful. After all, as a psychologist who has worked with many people who experience delusions and hallucinations, it was the closest that I have ever come to understanding what it's like to walk through life and not even being able to trust what is your own internal experience and what is your very reality. Death Stranding is a game I admittedly have yet to play personally, but I've been spending hours watching my partner play. Sam Bridges embodies man's eternal quest for meaning as he gathers all this large cargo scattered across the corrupted landscape of what was once the United States. The game asks of us, what does it mean to connect? Is our purpose found in service to others, or do we find purpose from confronting the things that we fear? With themes of isolation and death and hope, I found Death Stranding to be a game that has really drawn me in, and it's next on my list to play myself. Even though you spend the vast majority of your time alone, I love the cooperation between you and other players as you leave each other signs of encouragement or a well-placed bridge to help them over rough waters, or even designated places to water a communal mushroom garden. Those who have played the game know what I mean. Sometimes I ask myself, why am I drawn to these types of games? What about them makes them so compelling that I can't stop playing games that make me question my own existence? Well, the answer is pretty simple. I'm getting old. I am an older gamer, and that's a humbling position to be in. I was there back in the days on the Oregon Trail, forging westward across the US, hunting for survival, watching my family die off one by one from a broken arm or a snake bite or dysentery. I was there when Mario first journeyed across the Mushroom Kingdom, and when Sonic freed the first animals trapped by Dr. Robotnik. I spam kicked my way to victory with Chun-Li, helped Lara Croft raid her very first tombs, and yes, even captured many of the very first Pokemon. But despite being a grown-up with a family and work and having limited free time, I still enjoy relaxing with video games. But as I've gotten older, I lean more and more into games that ask profound questions about life. Questions I ask more and more of myself, so I enjoy games that tap into this familiar search that we all go through at some point in our lives, trying to make sense of who we are, why we do what we do, and what any of this all means. But what if this quest for meaning isn't about finding a single satisfying answer? What if it's the act of searching itself, the willingness to confront the question of our very existence? That is really what breathes purpose into our lives. This is what I love about video games. They allow us to step into the life of someone different and make choices in a life that's not our own in a way that deepens our understanding of what it means to be human. Slay the Princess challenges you with a morally ambiguous question. Do you slay the princess that you've been told will destroy the world? Or do you decide to connect with her, trust her, or perhaps even love her? The goal of Slay the Princess is simple. You slay the princess or not. But this simple idea is intricately woven into quite the web of a branching narrative that adds layer upon layer of complexity. It forces you to confront your assumptions about decision-making in gaming. Killing is not always the right thing to do, unless, of course, for when it is. And this is what makes the game so compelling. It has probably one of the most engaging stories that I've played in a long time because your choices really do have an impact. It might be on a minor level, such as determining which voices join you inside your head, or it might be on a major level, such as the many ways the princess is molded into being the person that you think that she is. The game blurs the line between making you both the protagonist and the antagonist. It forces you to question whether the role we play is ever truly set in stone. Who are you, really? Are you the hero? Are you the villain? Are you merely a pawn in a story created by some outside force that you don't even realize is there? And it does all this with just dialogue. Just you, the princess, and the voices in your head making calculated decisions from one moment to the next. Every thought you have, every word you utter, every decision you make forever reshaping the narrative. It's not just about what you do, but why you do it. In Slay the Princess, there is no winning or losing, no right or wrong, only new perspectives. It's a mirror that reflects your values, your fears, and your desires, and challenges you to find meaning in the act of choosing, even when no choice feels right. If you've seen previous videos on my channel, you may know that I was a psychologist for the sick and dying. And in doing this, I discovered that being a part of someone's life at the end of their life can be the most rewarding thing. This is what drew me to Spiritfarer. In Spiritfarer, you play Estella, a woman who has taken over the role of assisting spirits before they cross over into the afterlife. And as she and her cat Daffodil settle into their new roles, you discover how much meaning is woven into every aspect of the world and their experiences. Each spirit carries their own unresolved struggles, and they share with Stella memories that mattered to them and lessons that they learned. The entirety of the game is both a reflection of the end of our own existence, as well as the importance of being there for others when they need us the most, reminding us how purpose can be found in service to others, through acts of kindness, the sharing of stories, and building connections even at life's end. Some of my most memorable and precious moments with my patients were when they reminisced on times of their lives when they felt the strongest or the happiest, or the moments that they felt truly defined them. Being able to step away from focusing on how their mind and body had started to fail them and reminding themselves that they lived a life that they hoped they would be remembered for. We all one day have to accept the inevitability of life's end, but there is always a bit of us that remains through the people with whom we share our journey. What do you get when you combine 1990s suburban Indonesia, an impending apocalypse, and the ability to dive inside of people's minds Inception style to fix them from the inside out? A Space for the Unbound follows teens Atma and Rhea, who are preparing for their graduation as their reality starts to crumble around them. Something strange is happening in the world, and the only way to solve the puzzle is through the hearts and minds of the townsfolk. And I mean that literally, that's the main game mechanic. Space diving inside of people to find out their deepest fears, sadnesses, and insecurities. Plus, you can pet the cats. So many cats. I feel like this game is one that really slipped under a lot of people's radar, and it's a shame that it did. I really love the space dive mechanic because you get to see the contrast between how people present on the outside and how they really think and feel on the inside. And no surprise there, those two are not always consistent. We've all done this, putting on a brave face when inside we were pretty frightened, or on the outside we're angry when inside what we really feel is hurt. The story of Atma and Rhea is a bit of a love story that unfolds as a metaphor for navigating trauma, identity, personal growth, and emotional resilience. And it does all this amidst the backdrop of a disintegrating reality because, the end of high school isn't stressful enough on its own. The list of these types of games keeps growing. I know it's a bit of a running joke at this point that indie games are all filled with themes of depression and anxiety and trauma to the point that many players feel this has been overdone. And I think there's a lot of validity to this argument. I don't necessarily disagree. But there's a reason why these games keep coming up again and again. And that's because when these games are done well, players connect deeply with the narrative. This year alone, there have been a lot of really great video game stories with thought-provoking explorations of the human experience. Games like 1,000 Time Resist, where an alien race has caused a pandemic that wiped out all of humanity except for Iris. Now, 1,000 years later, Iris has become the All-Mother and created a society entirely of her clones. And you, as the new Watcher, has the ability to relive simulations of her memories to discover the truth of who she is and the history of a world that is long gone. Or Phoenix Springs, a neo-noir mystery that follows yet another Iris, except this one is searching for her missing brother in a community that is both known and unknown. This game is a giant rabbit hole of humanity's obsessions, blurring of ethical boundaries, and finding out the lengths that others will go to achieve their desires. Then there's Indika, the game that bills itself as a nun who hears the voice of the devil, but it's deeper than that. I know the game was a bit of a bait and switch because the visuals aren't as surreal as the trailers would suggest, but it's still an intriguing alternative reality. Intertwined are themes of faith, the concept of free will versus choice, religious interpretation of mental illness, and the balancing of individual expression with society's expectations. And of course, Mouthwashing. Have you guys played Mouthwashing? It is such an unexpected experience. It positions itself as a psychological horror game, but it's really about how fragile the human psyche can be under stress. That takes this game to a whole other level. The way the hallucinations and the non-linear storytelling tie into the narrative makes it all much more interesting and engaging than it would appear on the surface, at least in my humble opinion. Now, it goes without saying that games don't have to have a deeper meaning. Games are meant to be fun and an escape from reality, and don't get me wrong, I love a good fun time for fun time's sake, just as much as anyone else. But for me, these games are also pretty fun. I enjoy mending fractured societies, guiding lost spirits, and grappling with our own inner demons. And if you've made it to this point in the video, there's a pretty good chance that you do too, so be sure to share those games with me in the comments. I'm always looking for new and interesting games to play. This video started out with my renewed fixation on Slay the Princess after the Pristine cut dropped, and it ended up sprawling into this video essay slash top 10 list rambling on about some of my favorite games. I appreciate you indulging me in this little thought experiment. I know these type of games don't capture the attention of every gamer, but they do keep getting made because they're so relatable to so many of us on a deeper level. So while you're here, feel free to check out my video on Oxenfree 2 about sacrifice or my video on GRIS about grief. In the meantime, I am Journey. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.